it changed us overnight. We went from making a decent gross profit every month to well over six figures every month, just spiraled out of control, but in a good way. The biggest change we made was in what state was Wrapped in when we got it. Without swearing, a very challenging position. No processes, no one really internally steering the ship, but great people. And the clients that were in there were fantastic. We were not making any money. Becky and I were paying wages of our staff out of our own bank accounts for 6 months. We sat on New Year's Eve in front of a fire with a bottle of red wine, paying the wages for the staff. And we promised this is the last time. And thankfully, touch wood, if there's anything here that's wood to touch, we haven't done that again. The question I'm always asked is, why did you bother carrying on?
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Profit, People and Productivity podcast. This is actually the first of season 2. I'm honored to have my guest today. His name is Mark Robinson, and he has spent over 2 decades in the high pressure world of insurance and financial services sales. That is a world of targets, pipelines, commercial accountability, and all of that stuff. He's then done something that most people wouldn't do, and most people are scared to do, especially people in that position. He bought into a creative agency with his wife, Becky. Mark is currently the CCO of Wrapped, a full-service brand marketing agency working across healthcare, fintech, technology, and property. And if that wasn't enough, Mark has also co-founded a new business called Insurely Business Insurance alongside Becky, his wife, again, of course. Mark brings commercial rigor to agency life that most agencies, to be honest, wish they had. So today, I'm honored to welcome Mark to the show.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. So Mark, thank you for being part of the show. And obviously, we know each other. We've known each other for a while now. I would like you to set the scene for us. How have you got to where you are now? Who is Mark Robinson, and what's your journey been like?
I think it's probably a big dose of madness. So, as you sort of mentioned there, my background is away from marketing and creative things. So, as you rightly say, I've been involved in insurance, financial services since I left school, and that was my world. Insurance, but specifically dealing with niche sides of insurance. It was always around technology, fintech, and realised quite early in my career that in order to make things interesting, because insurance is not that interesting, and to be successful in a very busy sector, was to niche into something. And at the time, technology was on the rise. Fintech was coming into its own, and I sort of pigeonholed myself into that area. And insurance, there wasn't many people doing it, so it enabled me to become an expert overnight, really. And that sort of that made my career really, and took off from there. So the background has always been insurance, always been sales. I am quite proud to say that I am a salesman, whereas some people don't like to say that, but I think it's fantastic. And yeah, got into the crazy world of marketing and brand and creative and everything in 2024. In terms of who I am, I think I'm quite loud. I can't stop. I get bored very easily, and Becky's the same. So hence the 2 businesses, I think. So I'd say probably ambitious, like being busy, like the hunt of sales. I think that's probably how most people would describe me if they were doing it in a nice way, I think.
Oh, true entrepreneur then.
Yes, if you like, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So that world of sales, financial services, what did that teach you, or what have you been able to bring from that world to the agency world?
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, and again, not being in the agency world for too long, but what What I've seen from speaking to other agency owners and looking at the agency landscape is there's a bit of a lack of commerciality across the landscape. And I can only put that down to the fact that agencies, I feel, and again from the agencies I've seen and spoken to, and certainly our agency was exactly the same, they're run by the heart rather than the head, or certainly more heart than head, which is fine. It's a creative sector, brilliant, nothing wrong with that at all. But things need paying for, so that commerciality always has to be there. And what my background in sales has taught me is that sales needs to be number one, because without those sales there's no cash flow, and without cash flow there's no business. And I think one of the very first lessons that we learnt at Wrapped was about cash flow. It doesn't matter what you do, if there is no cash flow, you ain't trading for very long. So I think the background in sales has given me the discipline to, okay, first thing first, we need some business through the door. But on top of that, we need a plan as to where business is coming from. So again, early on, one of the first of many jobs that we did when we came into Wrapped was look at, okay, what are the issues that we need to immediately deal with? And certainly one of them is sales. Okay, where do our new clients come from? Where do sales come from? And the answer is, well, we wait for the leads to come in, and that's great if the leads are coming in. But what if they don't? So and it's slightly different in agency land than it was in insurance, but in insurance it was always very heavily, and it's commercial corporate insurance as opposed to personal and life insurance. But it was always inbound was the cherry on top of the icing of the cake, and the leads came from outbound stuff, networking. Inbound stuff was just an absolute dream bonus. It seems to be the other way around in agency land, where it's, well, we'll just wait for the phone to ring. So I think the discipline that I've been able to bring in terms of that sales of, well, we need to outreach, we need to network, people need to know who we are, people need to know why to use us. And again, I think that is not present for a lot of agencies that I've spoken to and that I've researched.
No, you're absolutely right. So, of course, I work with a lot of agencies, and I know, speak to a lot of agencies, and that's 100% true. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that when people set up agencies, they haven't got any commercial background. They either come from having worked in an agency, or they were senior leadership teams in an agency, and then they decided to go start one, or they were just good at, whether it was development or creative work or PR or whatever, and thought, okay, we'll set up a business around what we know best, right? So that tends to be how agencies tend to get bought into or started or owned or whatever. So the owners and the leaders don't tend to have that commercial background. So I think with someone like you, where you've come from an industry that is driven by going out there and getting it, that clearly has helped the business, has helped Wrapped, right, to turn it around. So having said that, then I think one big question that then comes from it is, how do you bring other people along on that journey, in terms of, because it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking. Like you rightfully said, some people, sit back and wait for the leads. But, in my experience, that is, sometimes you get lucky, and, sometimes your reputation precedes you and you do get work that way. But the agencies that tend to win or do the best are the ones that combine both, inbound, outbound. So you've come from a place where that. So how were you able to then bring everybody else along on that journey of this is how we're going to moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's still very much a work in progress, but it's that strategy of, as you rightly say, you need to have both, because if those inbound dry up, you're then struggling. And if you're struggling, then you start doing things cheaper than you should be doing it, because it's a cash flow thing again. So we're always trying to work 3 months ahead of where we are. So we don't get to a month and we're like, well, we're going to be short this month. That doesn't happen. It's taken a while to get there, but that's where we are. In terms of bringing people along with it, and there's a wider piece around this, around visibility of numbers within reason for teams. But there's a wider piece around, we need to show the team this is why we need to do it. And if we don't do it, realistically, this is what might happen. Okay, so bringing people along is showing them the journey as to why it needs to be done and what happens if you don't. So it's, as I say, work in progress. I believe, and we're trying to do it within Wrapped, that everyone within the business needs to understand the commerciality of having to do new business and where clients come from and what happens if we don't win clients, what happens if we overservice clients and we're not profitable. It needs to be understood that there's a problem with that happening or not happening, as the case may be. So it's about, and we're probably quite fortunate in that we do have a generally quite a small team, albeit it's growing, that it's probably an easier message to get across and instill now rather than already having a huge team and having to change mindset with a lot of people. But it is bringing people along on the journey with you to show them why it matters and show them why it will affect the figures and what affecting figures means for people within an agency. There's no secret in agency land, the rate of redundancies is huge. So we need to make sure that we're winning business because it pays the wages at the end of the day. So if the phone stops, where does it come from? It's a lesson that needs to be drummed into everyone that's sat behind a desk in agencies all over the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course I definitely agree with you, because that's what I focus on. That's what I do, from a commercial perspective for agencies. It's all about, I always say, start with why.
Yeah.
Because if people don't understand the why, then it is difficult to get them to adopt the how.
Yeah.
Because many of the things, when we talk about being commercial, a lot of the things that we talk about don't come naturally to a lot of people, and the knowledge and skill set don't come naturally as well. So it's not a pleasant thing to say to someone, okay, let's focus on the numbers. This is what the numbers are telling us, and blah, 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 blah. If they don't understand why is this thing important? Why do we need to do it, kind of thing. So I'm completely with you on that fact, and it makes sense how that is your approach. So you've talked a lot about cash flow. You've talked about many things. So let's pull it back a bit. Why Wrapped? Why did you buy into Wrapped specifically? And question number 2 around that is, what was the business like when you first bought into it? What was the what were the finances like? What was the commerciality like? What was the culture like? Fill us in on what it was.
Am I allowed to swear?
Feel free. Feel free.
I won't. So why Wrapped? It was an opportunity that was laid upon us and kind of became a decision that seemed like a no-brainer at the time. Now, if you'd have probably given me 2 weeks further to sleep on it, we probably wouldn't have done it, to be perfectly honest. So the long and short of it was I was coming to the end of my time working with an insurtech down in London. Becky was already a part of Wrapped, so a minority shareholder of Wrapped anyway. Wrapped is... it was coming up to, I think Wrapped was 9 years old at the time. It's a fantastic business with a phenomenal group of team members. Fantastic base for a business. Really, really strong. Great business. Looking from the outside in. So, but as I think with a lot of agencies, it was kind of a bit stagnant. So really good at what it did, but that's where we are. We're just Wrapped. We're a local agency that looks after local businesses marketing. We do a little bit for them and a little bit for them. No real niche that was highlighted to anyone, albeit it did kind of have an internal niche. So it was kind of sat there being Wrapped. Okay, and there was an opportunity where was Wrapped going to be sold? What was going to happen with Wrapped? And I was kind of earwigging on these conversations because I share an office with Becky when I wasn't working down in London. So the opportunity came to potentially do something, and Becky and I had a conversation over a weekend about it, and we decided, okay, well, why don't we take it on? There's already a good base of staff. There's already a decent client base. Surely it's making some money, right? So it seems like a better option than for someone to leave and set up again on their own when you're thinking of non-competes and the way the market was and trying to bring new clients in. It just seemed like it was probably a better option to take something on. And the conversation kind of went along the lines of, well, you know marketing, so that's fine. And I know how to run a business, so it seems to make sense, right? So that's what we did. So we made the decision, we floated it, the board agreed, and very quickly we were the owners of a full service brand agency. So the why was kind of like, it just seemed like a natural thing to kind of do. Becky is very similar to me in that we can't sit still for 5 minutes.
Right.
So there always needs to be something next, a challenge to do. And that seemed to be the natural next thing to do. So, okay, let's do that. So that's kind of the why. What state was Wrapped in when we got it? Again, without swearing, a very, very challenging position. And I think it's possibly was in a position that a lot of agencies either have been in or are in now. And again, it was kind of the stale, sat there, we wait for things to come in, we might tender for something, but we haven't won a piece of business in a long time. No processes, no one really internally steering the ship, but great people. And the clients that were in there were fantastic. We were hit immediately with a handful of serious issues with the business, which when I've explained, some of them I'm allowed to talk about, some of them I'm not. But when I explain some of them, the question I'm always asked is, why did you bother carrying on? And I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm really glad that we did. Yeah. Being able to sit here now and share some of the things we had to go through and how we got round it. So it was the business was in a challenging position. So the business was making a loss, quite a considerable loss. The team were really, really, really busy, and I don't know why. Although I do know why now, because there was no process. So a lot of things were being double-handed. There wasn't great communication. As I say, there wasn't a huge amount of steering things in the right way. There were some staffing issues. There was issue with finance. You could pick one of 15 or 20 issues that we had in the business. And we had to try and face them all up quite quickly because we weren't making any money. What was really useful is I attended a conference. And I think as an agency, we'd never really attended conferences or sent anyone anywhere. And I attended a conference for marketing founders, agency founders, kind of just to try and immerse myself. And I bought books and everything about marketing agencies to read and try and figure out what I was doing so I didn't look like a complete idiot when I turned up and said, I own the agency now, with no experience whatsoever. And I turned up at this conference, didn't really know what to expect, and just listened to agency founders share the issues that they had within their agencies. And pretty much every single person I spoke to either was going through an issue that we were going through or had been through an issue that we were going through. So getting that feedback and real world experience of, oh, well, that happened to us and this is what we did, and that happened to us, so don't do that, and we got through that, was really, really useful early on. And it kind of gave us a bit of strength and a bit of ammo to say, right, we know we need to do this. We know we need to go in this direction. So we fixed the issues quite quickly. Thankfully, I'll say, and we kind of look back at this now and smile a little bit on it, we were hit with a lot of issues in one go. So we had to deal with them all at once. And in hindsight, I'd much rather we had everything in one go, because if we'd have had an issue and then we fixed it and then went, oh, everything's fine, and we went along a bit, then got hit with another issue and kept doing that, I think it'd have probably finished us off.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd have carried on, in all honesty. But thankfully, we got hit with everything in one go. So yeah, HR issues, finance issues, legal issues, invoicing issues. We went through an entire month where not one client had received an invoice. So cash flow wasn't great anyway, but when we're not invoicing clients, that was even worse. We went through changing a platform during that time as well. So pretty much every issue we faced. We were, as I say, we had no cash flow. We were not making any money. Becky and I were paying wages of our staff out of our own bank accounts for 6 months.
Wow.
It wasn't great. And we sat on, the last time we did that, we sat on New Year's Eve in front of a fire with a bottle of red wine, whilst I sat with my laptop on my knees paying the wages for the staff. And we promised this is the last time we're paying staff wages. And thankfully, touch wood, if there's anything here that's good to touch, we haven't done that again.
Yeah.
And we've come out the other side. But it was a dark old time, but we faced it with smiles on our faces, and the staff didn't know about it, thankfully.
Yeah.
So they do now. But it was a challenging area. I think if we'd have known what we knew, which is probably where more due diligence comes into play. If we'd have known what we knew when we went in, we wouldn't have touched it. I don't think anyone would.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you touched it, and
I am. It's been great since.
Yeah,
really
And
it.
it is the whole point of this is to get into the whole journey. So I'm glad you did. So you mentioned that a lot of things, a lot of issues, a lot of problems, a lot of challenges. Some you can't talk about. That's fine. Some you can. Should we pick 3 things? If you could identify 3 things that were the most immediate things that you kind of came into Wrapped, looked at everything, and of course you were coming from basically an outsider, right? Which is a good thing, because sometimes whoever was running it at the time, in my experience, I found a lot of agency owners, the problems aren't rocket science, but there's this blind spot they have where they're so in the business that they can't see a lot of these commercial problems. So you've come in from the outside into the business, which was great, beneficial, yourself and Becky. So should we pick 3 things that you can identify, that you can talk about today and say, these were key issues, I identified them when I came in, and this is how I tackle them?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of them that are married up. So it's the 2 that go hand in hand are the visibility on figures and the cash flow. So we had to tackle cash flow first because we didn't have visibility on figures. So, and I know, so this is crazy. You'll cry being a finance person on this. So we came in April. We didn't have visibility on what our outgoings or break even was till December. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get hold of it. So we knew that was a big issue. First off, we didn't know what we needed to do to keep the lights on. And as a salesman, when I'm like, okay, well, what do we need to win? Like, what's the target? It killed me a little bit.
Yeah.
So we knew we had that issue straight away, but we couldn't figure that out. So visibility on figures, number 1. The thing we had was cash flow. Now, I'm aware of cash flow. Never did I know that cash flow was such a thing in agency world, like unreal. So where we had a real cash flow issue, and couple of things that were the reason for that. Number 1 was we didn't have any form of credit control. So the question I asked was, okay, so what's our credit control process? And the credit control process was, we invoice a client and we wait for them to pay us. So that's not credit control.
That's not a process.
That's invoicing a client and waiting for them to pay us. And it was a conversation around, okay, so if someone sends me a bill, I will generally, because I'm from Yorkshire, I will wait until I'm then chased for that bill unless I'm on direct debit.
Yeah.
But I will wait until I'm chased for that bill before I pay it. And then I go, oh yeah, I need to pay that. Yeah, there we go. Business owners are the same, because I do it as a business owner. If you ain't going to chase me, I ain't going to pay you. Yeah. And if you've got open-ended payment terms, brilliant. Hey. You've given me a line of credit. So, and we do this, we're doing this to other people. So very quickly it was, okay, well, what we do is now they have an invoice, then they are contacted to make sure they have received an invoice. Then they will get a statement and then they will be chased, or they'll get a reminder on the day it's due, and then they will be chased. We had to get around the mindset of, well, I don't want to bother them. And it's like, fine, then if they don't want to be bothered, pay us on time. And there was also changing a mindset of, a due date isn't a target. A due date is, we need the money in before this date. So we also had an issue with cash flow from our own side, in that if someone sent us an invoice, we'd pay it straight away. We didn't have payment runs, monthly payment runs. We'd get an invoice and we'd pay it. Regardless if it was on 30 days or 45 days, we would pay it straight away, even when we didn't have the money to pay it. So there was some internal processes for cash flow we needed to sort out. But that was number one lesson, was that, okay, money coming in and out, we need to get to grips with it. So that's the biggest one. As I say, the visibility on the numbers, I cannot stress this enough. And I've spoken to agency owners recently who still don't really have true visibility on the figures. I don't think you have to understand every single number and all this, that, and the other. Certainly not if you're a super agency. But you need to have a good grip on what's going on, what's coming in, what's going out, what the next 3, 6, 12 months looks like. Because if you don't, it'll cripple you. And there were a few switches. It feels like there's a few switches we were able to switch to change our fortunes. Visibility on the numbers was key. And as I say, it took us from April to December to do that. And we went through a couple of finance people to get to the stage we're in now. The guy we've got now that does our finance is phenomenal. Really, really good guy. But if I need something, I get it straight away. And I understand it. And I know what we need to do. If we're short there, we can do that. And we carry 4 months of overheads in the bank. It's brilliant. But without knowing what you're pitching for, you can't do anything. It's pointless. So that's 2. The third one has to be people. If you've got the wrong people in, even one person, it causes so much trouble. So having the right team that are on board with what you want to achieve and what you want to do. I hate the word culture. It's overused. I can't stand it. But it's culture at the end of the day. It's having people on your team that buy into what you're doing, know where you want to get to. As you say earlier, know the reasons why you want to get there. If you have the right team, I think you can do pretty much anything you want to do. But you've got to bring them along the journey with you. So those are the 3 things that we out of everything, the things I'm allowed to talk about, those are the 3 biggest things. But it comes down to the money at the end of the day. You need it coming in quicker than it's going out, and you need to know what the numbers are. I think it sounds daft. I think it's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't sound daft to me, because that's what I do. So I'm fully with you on that. Funny enough, my very first role when I got into finance before I qualified as an accountant was I was a credit controller. So all the things you're saying there, I was just nodding my head, just thinking back to some of the issues that I had when I was a credit controller. And you're absolutely right. You have to be on top of the billing, on top of the chasing. And today, like when I work with agencies, some of them still haven't got that in place. And cash flow is everything. The cliche, cash is king, is true.
100%.
It's game over when you run out of cash, and that's it. There's no 2 ways. We're not in a business where as agencies where we can fundraise and, you know, do series 1, raise in 1 million to run the business while we grow. And no, your business should run itself.
Yep.
Your business should generate enough cash to pay everybody, cover overheads, and leave you with a profit. That is running a business. So 100% on you know, on the cash flow thing. And then on the visibility side, again, that's what I preach every day. Yeah. Anyone that watches my posts on LinkedIn will, you know, attest to this. You have to have visibility of the numbers. There's just no two ways about it. There are agencies that don't have visibility and would listen to you say this or listen to us talk about this and go, yeah, well, I don't know, but, you know, we do okay. That is gambling.
Yeah.
You know, yes, you're doing okay and you happen to be doing okay, but you should be in a position where you can look, like you say, 3, 4, 5, a year ahead and say, this is where we're trying to get to. These are all the costs around us getting there. This is the profitability kind of thing.
Yep.
Now, if this doesn't happen, we can do this.
Yep.
If this isn't going the way we've planned, because I mean, planning, some people go, oh, what's the point in planning? Things will change. Absolutely. But if you haven't planned, then when things are changing, you don't even know they're changing because you never had a plan to start off with, kind of thing, right? So having a plan doesn't guarantee you will hit everything you've put in that plan, but it just allows you the ability to pivot when things aren't going your way, you know, aren't going the way you want them to go. So the cash flow, the financial planning, so important, absolutely. And then the people. We're in a professional services business, right? So people are key. Whether we're talking about expertise, whether we're talking about, you know, their commercial acumen, wherever it is, you know, you need the right people in place. So obviously you coming in to tackle those 3 things, I assume, you know, made a significant change. So talking about significant changes, when you tackled some of these problems, what changed in the business? How did you then measure what was working and what wasn't working from what you've talked about just now on these 3 things?
Well, again, it goes back to the visibility on the numbers, because we were all over the numbers, and we still are, but that's more of an OCD thing from my perspective, I think. But once we got hold of those numbers, we never let them go. It's like I know every penny where it is and where it's going. But that was really useful, because if we changed something, we could immediately see the difference it made very, very quickly. So the biggest change we made, and we've not looked back since, thankfully, the biggest change we made was at the end of Q1 last year, when we decided that we would niche our niche our the sectors that we work in, and that when I say it changed us overnight, it really, really changed overnight. We went from making a decent gross profit every month to well over 6 figures every month. Wow. Something that we could never, when we came in, ever dream of doing. It just spiraled out of control, but in a good way. So we decided we already had some good healthcare clients. We'd already done work with the NHS. We had good credibility in those spaces. My background, obviously, financial services, so I have a lot of clients and relationships in the financial services sector. So that kind of made sense to be there. We had good property clients. And again, my background around emerging markets and technology kind of worked. So we kind of look at that and go, well, they're all regulated. They're all regulated markets. And there's no one really that does this particularly very well. There's no real market leader in this. We can focus on this. We can send the team on a journey of learning and training themselves of, okay, regulated marketing's different. We know what the platform regs are. We know this, that, and the other. So that was the sort of big catalyst for change and the turnaround of our agency when we've sorted out the stuff sort of behind the scenes. But yeah, it was that. So that was the big trigger. We wouldn't have been able to do that had we not got ourselves into more of a firm footing, as I say, behind the scenes. But yeah, having visibility on those figures, and having visibility on the the MI from our own marketing, which is another thing to come on to, by the way, our own marketing.
Yeah.
Which is something that Becky is on with every hour, every day. But looking at the MI from our own marketing and reviewing that data to say, okay, where are we missing out? Where are we being found? Where aren't we being found? Why aren't we being found? So there was a big piece of work to do on Wrapped marketing, which we now class as a client, one of our most important clients. Right. And it's on our job sheet every morning to make sure that Wrapped marketing is being treated like a client. So yeah, those changes, the big stuff we did behind the scenes in terms of the finances and getting everything back on an even keel, and then using that to our advantage. So using the visibility on the numbers. So okay, if we make that tweak, what does that do there? Well, we can see that that's bringing in that, and we can see that our leads have increased, and we can see that we're getting more traction on socials. If you've got visibility, you can change stuff and see straight away what's working and what isn't. If it's not working, you have to go again. And I would strongly recommend any agency owner to continue. If it's not working, go again, go again, go again, and don't leave it. You've got to keep going. If visibility, it conquers all, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But you've got to. I think you have to be. It's going back to cash flow again, which probably most conversations do. When we were struggling with cash flow, we needed new clients. We didn't need profitable clients. We needed new clients because we needed money. So we went and won clients where they had every red flag going for them, and we did them below the price we should have done them for because we needed money through the door. Thankfully, we've managed to move away from those clients now. Not the client's fault, our fault entirely. But that cash flow and visibility on the figures will dictate the type of business that you go for, and the quality of the business you go for, and essentially the quality of work that you'll provide. It pins back to visibility. Probably everything we say today will pin back to visibility.
And it should do, because that is so important. You can't drive a car if there's a block on the windshield. You don't know where you're going, right? So you need to be able to see. So that visibility is important. But you touched on something really key that a lot of agency owners ask about, and that's the niching down on things. And with that, you touched on something else that ties into that, which is marketing. So niching down, are you talking about niching down in terms of the service you offer or the industry? Which one of the two?
Industry.
Yeah. Okay, great. Because that's what I thought you meant. Because when you're talking about marketing, when you niche, I always say this to agency owners or leaders, when you niche, you're able to market better because you're not all over the place with your marketing. You know what industry you're targeting, and therefore you can tailor the marketing around that industry and what they need, and who you are, your positioning, and all that sort of stuff. Is that something you found when you were working?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it was a risk to do, because you move away from being comfortable of, well, we won't get this type of business anymore. And it's like, well, we weren't anyway. Right? We're waiting for potentially someone that might be doing that to contact us and say, can you do some marketing for us? So yeah, it was a risk to do. Thankfully, again, touch wood, if that's what it's paid off. But it differentiates you from the rest of the. I mean, it's such a competitive sector, is marketing. Everyone needs marketing, whether they think they do or not. Everyone needs. At the end of the day, it's sales, and it's something I came to sort of make peace with quite early on. Is that, well, you say you're not from a marketing background, you're from sales, and sales is marketing, and marketing is sales, right? Because at the end of the day, you're marketing to try and convince someone to do something, whether it's generating a sale or whatever it may be. So niching down for us was, as I say, we already had a good reputation in healthcare. We already had potential. I say potential. We already had some good contacts in the financial services space. And as I mentioned earlier, there weren't, when we looked at the rest of the market, there's a few a few big agencies that say they specialise in healthcare or whatever. but they also do everything else as well. So it's okay being a mega agency and saying, well, this is our healthcare team, but you also got that team and that team and that team. We thought if we understand what the regulations are, and we say this to clients on calls or prospects on calls, there's various strands of regulation. There's the legal of what you can and can't do as a healthcare company or a fintech company or whatever. You can't make that claim, you can't say that, you can't do that. We understand that. So what we're not going to do is put copy out there or put assets out there that go in the face of that, because you're going to get in trouble or you're going to get banned from. So your compliance team are going to kick off. It's going to take you loads more time. So we know that, we understand that. Platform regulation is something that we see so often when new clients come to us. When we've been kicked off Google, our accounts have been suspended. We don't know why. Can you get us back on? We can get you back on. It costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. It's easier to not get suspended. But and the reason you got suspended is because you put a picture of something on or you've made a claim you shouldn't make, and you'll get kicked off Meta or Google. We understand that, and understanding that means that we get people to market quicker because we're not going backwards and forwards. We're not messing around with stuff. It's done. The biggest one, and when you mention it to people on a call, the lights go on and they see it, is self-imposed regulation. In healthcare, everything's blue all the time. Everyone's website's blue because the NHS lozenge is blue. So someone somewhere has thought there's a regulation in place that says we have to be blue as well. And they're blue, so we have to be blue. And their website's blue, so ours has to be blue. In fintech, everything's purple or pink. In property, everything's black or olive green or maroon. We understand where the regulation is. We understand what you can and can't say. So we push our clients right up to that boundary without going over it, so they stand out. That has enabled us to then get some great global clients in that sector, build our reputation, but also it's enabled us to look at our own marketing, as you say. So we know how to target things now. We look at the LLMs, the work we do on the GEO for Wrapped. We know where we're being found. We can make sure that if we're being found somewhere, it's saying the right thing about us. So it enables, it's the same as you would do with a client. We know where our audience is, and we know how our audience like to be spoken to and how they like to buy, so we can go and get them. So it's again, the same process we do with our clients. Instead of trying to bring the audience to us, we'll go to them and say, this is us, this is what we do. We understand your sector as a CMO or whatever it is you do in your business in marketing. We'll make your job easier for you because we understand the sector. It's probably the best decision as a business we've ever made. Risky, and took a while to bring some people on board with it. But we've still got clients that aren't in those sectors. We still speak to clients sometimes that aren't from those sectors, but probably 90+% of our new business that comes in is from those sectors. And when we ask, how did you find us? They find us on ChatGPT. They've been recommended by someone else. It allows us to target where we're going. It's a no-brainer. If you've got the minerals to do it, I think.
Definitely worth doing that.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So what I find interesting in that is when we talk about niching, we've addressed how you're then able to market because you know your audience, you know your industry, your clients and all of that stuff. But there are many things you said in that conversation you just had where you talked about how you address clients' problems. So you said something like, the client said they want a blue website. And then you're able to advise them and go, yeah, but everybody else in this space has got a blue website. Your client says, our problem is our website keeps getting taken down. Your response to them is, well, here's what we can do. Rather than solve the problem of getting your website back on track or back online, don't get taken down in the first place. And here's how to not get taken down. So to me, because I talk a lot, train and advise agency owners on value, and with value comes value pricing.
Yep.
Now, what you've demonstrated to me is your ability to solve the real problems that your clients have, in that industry that you've niched down on. And with that then comes value that you're adding to them. So it's not, because this is why where I feel a lot of agencies fall short is they solve the problems that clients think they have. So the problems that clients present to them as problems. So they're like, yeah, great, we can do that. We can solve it quickly. They're on it. They solve it. They get back to the client. But getting to what clients actually need is where you actually start to add real value, right? Because many times the clients aren't even thinking about it. You said the client, the switch went up when you mentioned something to them. That, oh yeah, that's what I need. That's where you then become a partner rather than a supplier to your clients, right? And it stems from the niching. So with all of this stuff, it leads to pricing, right? When people talk a lot about value pricing, they talk about value pricing like it's this, silver bullet, thing. But I always say value price, you can't value price if you're not adding value. That's the first thing. Otherwise, you're like everybody else. And if you're like everybody else, why should I pay you more if you're no different in what you're offering me, right? So you've demonstrated in just this, 10 seconds of what you said, a lot of value that you're offering your clients. So with that, is Wrapped in a position to then value price? What's the pricing situation like at Wrapped? And how do you think agencies should approach this value proposition or charging their services out to clients?
Yeah. It's $1 million question, isn't it? So I think, being honest, our pricing could probably do with a bit more thought into it at this moment in time, which is a process we're on with. Value pricing is, I think, what we have done by default because of what we offer. So, and you're going to kill me for this, because we give our prospects something before they work with us.
Okay.
Which is it's a sales technique, and it's leaving somebody in a better position than they were in when you first met them. Leaving them in a better position they were in after they met you than when you first met them, regardless of whether they work with you or not. So we do this, and we tell the prospect that we do this. Everything as an agency we do is based on fact. So when we go to proposal stage, when we put together a proposal, our team do research for that client. It's only a small bit of research, but it's research. And it's audience research, competitor research. We do some LLM research as well. That enables us to provide that value, kind of a little bit of that value or a sneak peek of that value up front, because otherwise all we're doing is showing someone a proposal form. And all they do is a proposal. All they do is look through to the end and see how much we're going to charge, and then they'll put us against. Oh well, they're basically doing the same, and they're charging 50 grand less or whatever it may be. The way our proposal presentation works is we go over what the client's objectives and KPIs are, and make sure that we've got that right. So they immediately start. You've got them nodding. So once you've got them nodding, it's on. This is a sales training. Once you've got them nodding, it's more likely that they're going to keep nodding. We then go straight into the research and say, okay, this is the research we've done. If you work with us, we'll do more research. We'll go deeper depth. But initially, we've done this. And you tell them why they're not hitting, because essentially they're talking to you because there's something wrong. They're not hitting targets. They're not. There's a campaign that's not working. Something isn't working. They tell us that. We then show them the facts as to, no, it's not working because you're not doing this, or this is happening, or your competitor's doing this. You look like this, they look like that. So we tell them what's wrong, and then we tell them how we'll fix it, and then we tell them how much it'll cost. And they're either going to work with us or they're not. But 9 times out of 10, we've found we've told them something that either, I knew that, but now you know that, and I never told you that, or I didn't know that's happening there. So there's your value. And we've already given them a little bit of value before they've proceeded to work with us. So it's a little bit of a risk, because I'm getting guys to do work without being paid.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't do is if we have a pitch that comes in and asks for example creative, we don't do that because I'm designing something for you that you can use if you want. We don't do that. But we made a decision shortly after we decided we'd niche that we win if we do this because we're already giving them a snippet of value. And it enables us to price accordingly for that because they already see, well, Wrapped know what they're doing. It's fact. We're not making it up. We're not saying, we think you should do this. It's, this is what the data says. We're not saying, you've told us you want this, so, okay, we've done that. Because anyone can do that. We're showing them what they need, and it's fact-based. They either do it or they don't, but we've highlighted it to them. So that enables us to price based on that value.
Nice. So I will put a label on what you've just talked about there, because I talk about this a lot. You've demonstrated the value to them beforehand, right? Because to your point, anyone can say anything on a call, to a client. And when you send them, when proposals get sent to clients, they probably all look the same, right? So anything you can do to prove that I understand your problem, and not only do I understand your problem, here are some other things you weren't even thinking about in your RFI or in your, what you sent to us, and here's how we can solve it for you. That then puts you in a different category, right? You've differentiated yourself from everybody else. So to your point, you're more likely to get it then. You're not more likely to get the nods because they can identify with, this person completely gets our problem. He's even shown us things we haven't even thought about. And their approach to solving it seems credible, seems right. Let's go with them. So that does make sense. So I'll make sure I note down that sales tactic you just talked about there so I can tell people about it. So that's good. So pricing, like you said, by default, you value price because you are offering value, and therefore the clients are willing to pay what you ask for because the value is there. You're different to everybody else. So that is an interesting approach. And the fact that you're doing it by default is even better because there was once I was at an event and I was talking to this lady, and she had just sold her agency a few years before. And we got talking, and she was telling me about the level of profitability they were making and all this stuff, and some really big numbers. And as we got talking, she explained more, and there was one thing she said that just made me understand why their margins were so high and why they were able to price the way they were pricing. She was like, we solve problems for clients that they can't, very complex problems that no one else can solve. And when she said that, I was like, value. Yeah. You're clearly solving the client's core problems, the actual problems they have. And for that reason, they have no problem giving. So when I asked her, I was like, oh, do you value price? She goes, what's that? She didn't even know what, the term value pricing was. She automatically did it because, again, the key to value pricing is value. And that's what, a lot of people don't talk about. They just think, oh, how can we value price? How can we value price? Well, what value are you offering? How are you different to anybody else? So there's a whole process behind the value pricing thing. So let's switch gears a bit back to kind of the culture of the agency. And clearly, before you even got into Wrapped, you were leading teams and, high target-driven teams and commercial teams and things like that. How would you advise any agency owner listening to this on how they can influence the culture of an agency to become more commercial? Because that's really important. We can say all this stuff we want to say now. Unless you're a one-man band or a two-person business and both of you are commercial, you've got people. So you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it on your own. You need other people to be on the same wavelength as you, or at least just understand. I always say to people, I'm not trying to make anybody an accountant or, but like you started off saying, there's certain things you should just understand if you want to be commercial. So within Wrapped, how have you managed to change the culture, and how can other people adopt that?
Yeah, and you just said something that's really interesting when you said, I'm not trying to make anyone an accountant. I'm not trying to make anyone a salesperson. There's a a difference between being commercially savvy or commercially knowledgeable, at least, and being a salesperson. They're not exclusively the same thing. And I think people struggle with that, because if I start talking about, I need you to be more commercial, well, I can't pick up the phone and ring someone. I don't want to do that. That's fine. Not everyone wants to do that or can do that. I wouldn't want everyone doing that. You need to understand your team and the individuals you have in the team, and understand what commerciality may mean for them, and what levers you can pull to get the commerciality out of them. So it's things like looking for additional opportunities with an existing relationship we have. That's being commercial. It's not being a salesperson. I mean, it kind of is, but you've already got a relationship with this person. You already do a good job for them. So what else can I do for you? Can we increase this a little bit? Can we do a little bit more here? That's being commercial. It's looking for opportunities that may not present themselves, but we can ask a couple of questions. But again, it's allowing the team. There's the old school thought of, and I used to have this earlier in my career, is that knowledge is power. So we're not going to share anything with you because you don't need to know that. You don't need to know what revenue is. You don't need to know what the sales figures are. You don't need to know what the target is. You just need to do something. I want you to do this figure. So just do it, because that's what I've told you to do, without knowing what the rest of it is. Now, there are some figures that we don't show the team for obvious reasons, but we are pretty transparent with what we show them and why we show them it, because it's bringing everyone on the journey. So if you do this, that, and the other, and we get to this number, that means we can do this. So we can invest more in equipment, so you can have a better monitor, or we get a nicer office, or we can bring more people in to support you. We can send you on a training course. We can grow, we can scale the business sustainably. And we want to grow the business sustainably because X, Y, and Z. And if you help us and bring us along that journey, we can give you X, Y, Z. So it's not being secretive with things. Allowing people to have information gives them automatically, I think, some commercial acumen, because they know, we've done really well this month, and our target for next month is this. So how can I help us get to that? And it's allowing them to be part of the team rather than just turn up 9 to 5, do what's in your planner, and we'll see you tomorrow. Because that's not fun. Can't be fun. I wouldn't find that fun. But to be part of something, I think that's fun. And you're automatically being commercial, because you're thinking, there's an opportunity there. I might be able to do this. I might be able to do that. Did you know we can do this? There's a new piece of software that does that. I reckon that client would like if we offered that to them. They don't think it's sales. It is, but it's not banging a phone and cold calling and trying to sell a car. So it's differentiating between sales and commerciality, I think, is a big blocker as to why people go cold and clam up when they think of being commercial.
That's so interesting, because the next thing I was going to go into is new business, but you've started talking about it in a sense when you say part of being commercial is, you're already working with clients. So, and they love what you do, they trust you. So are there other things that we can offer that clients? It's organic growth, right? New business, but organic growth, which I think gets overlooked a lot with a lot of agencies. They focus on the new business. How can we get brand new clients? How can we bring this revenue in? But there's that low hanging fruit of people you're already working with who don't know you do certain things, or you can solve certain problems of theirs, but you haven't even tapped up that opportunity there. So I think from what you're saying, enabling the team to know or have the acumen to go, okay, let me examine some of these existing clients and the revenue we're getting from them and what we're offering them. Can we cross-sell certain things? Can we upsell in certain areas? That is part of being commercial. So that's a big fact. And I think it all comes back to the why, because you were saying just telling them, do this number, do this, is great if you're working with robots.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's great. You program them, or you just say, this is what it is, and let them get on with it. Or with AI, great.
Yeah.
But we're talking about people.
Mm.
And if you want people to buy into things, they have to understand why.
Yeah.
And they have to have the visibility to be able to go, okay, I know why I should be doing this. I know how to do it. But what are the metrics behind it? What am I actually chasing? Am I doing a great job?
Mm.
You know, you can't know that if you don't have visibility of numbers and, you know, metrics and things like that. And to your point, I'm with you on this 100%. You don't share everything with everybody. I know, and I've worked with some people who do that. They show the whole P&L to everybody.
Mm.
I'm not an advocate of that at all. At certain levels, there's certain things that you should show people, things that will help them do what you need them to do or what they need to know, kind of thing. But you don't need to show. It just creates more problems.
It does, yeah.
So pick and choose what you show people, and knowing that is important as well.